Hello everybody, I'm Federico from Bocconi TV and I'm here at the 2022 Venice Immersive. Venice Immersive is an exhibition of virtual and augmented reality projects made by daring new artists. I'm here joined today by Victoria Bousis. She's the founder, the creative director, the writer and also live action director of UME. UME is a technology studio who specializes in interactive games, in immersive experiences and in virtual production of video games in AR and VR. So, Victoria,
yes.
You're here at the Venice Immersive with your most recent project, Tu vivras mon fils, Stay Alive My Son. Can you tell us what brought you here to Venice Immersive and what is the story of Stay Alive?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me. I got a chance to watch the experience yesterday, and you were so immersed by it, and it made me so happy to see your reaction. So thank you again for taking the time. So Stay Alive for My Son has been quite of a journey for me. It's based on the book of the same name by Pinyatai, and I discovered the book when I was in Cambodia 9 years ago. And I was really, really touched by how descriptive the story was and how also tragic in a sense it was, because it talks about this man and his family during the Cambodian genocide and he having to make a decision that no parent has to make, which unfortunately was to abandon his 6-year-old son behind to survive. And I remember, crying, landing in New York and saying to myself, wow, I couldn't believe parents have to make that. Cut 2 years later, with the Syrian refugee crisis happening and obviously Ukraine now, I felt that it's devastating that families still have to make these decisions. And so I wanted to make a project in which we stepped into the shoes of now this older man and reflecting back on his life, on the decisions, so that people know that those decisions don't just remain there. They are carried through the duration of someone's life and the effects of that. So that was the point of it. And to also, I think, inspire, because he went on to do great things in his life, which we'll get into, which I think is important for people to see how sometimes bad circumstances can push us to accomplish extraordinary things. So it's also an inspirational story in my view.
What were the opportunities and challenges of the new medium that you're using, augmented reality, that both from the perspective of director and producer helped you and also maybe sometimes created some difficulties in the making of this story? There
were a lot of technical issues. VR is a beautiful medium, but also the graphics cards and the computational power is not really there yet. And it's been an evolving through the duration of the project. For example, I wanted people to meet Yatai in his age now. The way I had met him, so that they understand who is the person that they're embodying and they're going back. Now, metahuman technology is super sophisticated. You're talking about a technology that has 120,000 polygons, numerous bones. I think there's 893 bones in the face alone. And so when we first tried to do blend shapes with the metahuman tech, we couldn't get the actual look of Yatai. So we had to go back and sculpt it without breaking any of the bones, because then the facial capture wouldn't work well, his body and that capture wouldn't work well. And then once we had him and he looked amazing and the hands look great and everything looks exactly what I wanted it to be, then we had to think about how do we bring this virtual human to life. So we had to use the sense suit, we had to use a different set of gloves, we had to use different facial capture and then audio sync on top of that, and that was a bit challenging. The other challenging aspect is the worlds are pretty extensive, as you saw, and very fantastical, and the graphics are AAA quality, so you had to be really conscientious about polygon counts, what places you could use VFX at, what places you couldn't, volumetrics in terms of the clouds. So everything was very, very strategic in terms of level design and the technical constraints. Now, in terms of the story, so it's narrative versus mechanics. You have to keep the player in a flow state, right? Which means, tell them to do something so they have an emotional, engaging mechanic that they're doing, right? Whether it's solving the puzzles, which you did, but then there's also like, when is the opportunity when they're open to receive the voiceover, and you have to find this really good balance. And I think that was the most challenging for me, because as a director, you're so story driven. You're just like, I want these people to know the story, I want to know the dialogue, I want to know all these things, and then you're just like, oh shoot, like I have to do the mechanic, and how do I do all that without having something in someone's ear all the time, and they don't have this moment to like breathe in the space that they're in, and explore a little bit, and have them kind of make the story theirs. So basically challenges were everywhere.
Yeah. And so maybe also talking about the broader picture, the talking about the market for
Yes.
Artistic products. How do you find a balance between the artistic freedom and also the depth that you want to give to your storytelling, and the depth of the story, of the characters also that you bring to AR, with the tendency of the virtual market to make everything very easily consumable and almost game-like, but in a superficial way?
That's a really good question, and I think it's one that I wrestled with a lot, to be honest, because at the time when I started developing the story, everyone was telling me, this is not the thing for the VR. You're not going to make your money back, because there's a gamified version to VR. Like your Beat Sabers and your Super Shot and all these kinds of games. And I took a gamble, because you have to kind of know who you are as a creator, and I think for me, story is very, very powerful, especially stories of real people in our world. And the other aspect of defining who you are as a creator is what would be the evolution of something, like what is the long-term goal. And I think, I wouldn't mind making games too, don't get me wrong. I played Beat Saber, I played Super Shot, I play all of those. But in terms of thinking in the future, like what is going to happen 5 years from today, I was thinking to myself that I think there is a place for cinema, but I think there's also an opportunity there to be able to step into the shoes of a main character instead of just watching their story on your screen. Actually stepping in the shoes and using the technology and the neuroscience implications and the physiological implications to actually feel those emotions yourself. And I wanted to be a pioneer of this idea, and I wanted to take the gamble to pioneer, and sometimes that comes with the risk, but I think it also comes with the rewards, especially when I see that it worked and I get a feedback such as yours. It means something to me, and if the reward is not there right at this moment, I definitely think it's going to be there, not in the long term, in the very short term. So.
And speaking of risks,
Yes.
we were also, as students of economics and management, and of course passionate about arts, cinema, we were inspired by your entrepreneurial journey, because you came from a background in law, then you moved to cinema, then now you're in augmented reality. And so can you share with us some lessons that you learned along the way, and also the rules that you have for yourself to survive and thrive in an emerging entertainment market?
I'll do the best I can. Some things you just have to kind of go on the journey yourself and discover it, because I think there's something important to be learned by that journey. But I will say that, starting with law, it wasn't necessarily because I started law in order to make money, or I wasn't driven by that. I think for me, being a prosecutor at that time was about defending people's rights. I thought I had a unique opportunity to defend the rights of ordinary people. And I think that was the first seed that was planted, as that has, kind of guided me throughout all the iterations of my career till the present. I think it's been one thing that has always driven that journey and that storyline, which has been kind of this passion for people and the passion to change the world and to do it in a responsible way, using kind of all the blessings that I have been given from above in order to accomplish that. So I would say sometimes the road of an entrepreneur is a bit lonely. Sometimes it's less traveled. You have people kind of going, you know, down the main road saying, okay, follow this way, but you know in your heart that you're meant to do something different, something entrepreneurial, something creative, something that's just different from the path traveled. And I think you have to take that gamble. You have to take that risk. You have to follow your passion, because I kid you not, making this experience has challenged me in every aspect, has made me question myself. Was this the right move? Should I be, you know, working for a gaming company? Should I have gone back into law? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? And you're always wondering, you know, if you made the right choice. And self-doubt is something that I think you deal with on a daily basis, until that click happens when you're like, no, I believe in it, because it doesn't feel like work. It's long hours, but it doesn't feel like work. And I wake up every single moment and every single morning with such a passion for what I do, passion for the stories I tell. I try to do it responsibly. Like, the experience has a really great cast, which I thought, you know, on a financial level and a way of selling and drawing attention to the project, it was part of it. They're exceptional actors, which really gave the project a whole other level of prestige. So I did things to make sure that they were done correctly. I went to Greece to help make the production, because Greece affords you a 40% cash rebate on all production expenditures, which was a way to kind of manage my risk. So follow your passion, go after it, know that the road may be lonely, but if you have that drive, I think you'll never regret your choices. Understand that you are also of the real world, so try to manage your risk by doing some of these smart decisions to offset some of that. And I would say go for it. Absolutely go for it.
Very good advice, thank you. And so now, talking about the future, what are your? I know that at the end of Stay Alive, My Son, there is a teaser for the next step. Could you explain us more what the future will bring for this story?
Sure. There is part of a story that I wanted to continue to kind of come back to the real world afterwards and to meet the whole family. I'm going to wait on that. We're doing some development on it right now, because I really want to also see how I can push the medium to work with a really huge IP. I don't know if it's Disney or Warner or one of the bigger studios, but I would like to do something which is based on the Unreal game engine. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the way Mandalorian was made on an LED screen, creating virtual worlds. I've been part of virtual production for some time now. I'm one of the pioneering women in the field. I was also an Epic Games fellow in virtual production. So I'd love to have my studio create a virtual world for me to shoot it as a film version, and then use those assets and make the VR experience and then also the game. So right now I'm actually looking into different material, and I'll probably be making my tour around LA so I can see what is the right fit of the thing I want to do next. And I want to reach as many people as I possibly can through all the various mediums, and to use each medium to reach them differently. Whether it's more emotionally, you know, via VR, more entertainment-like via film or what have you. But yeah, so I'm trying to find that special next gem.
And I hope you really find it. So thank you so much, Victoria. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Federico. And to all the students out there, I would say go after your dreams. It's an interesting field. I think it's an opportunity to really impact the world and give a message on a global level. If you have any questions or ever want to reach out, Federico has my contact. I'm happy to give anyone advice on what they need, and continue your wonderful dreams. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.